Yep, 116 miles. Hey everybody, welcome back to Cars and Zebras. If it's the first time to the channel, then thank you for joining us. A little bit different video today. Recently, I found a 1989 Chevrolet Camaro IROC-Z with 116 original miles. And yes, those are original miles. The car is extremely well documented. This car was actually up for auction with quite a few other cars, all from the same owner. And they were all very low mile original cars. And this person had taken very good care of all of them. So I went to the open house to look at the cars because there was one that I was interested in purchasing. And of course, I took my camera gear because all these cars were just unbelievable. So anyway, if you guys find this interesting, leave a comment and I'll keep posting these videos periodically. Probably won't be anything regular, just more so when I have a little bit of spare time. Now, I will be the first to admit, I'm not a huge fan of this year Camaro or even that entire third generation, but I can appreciate a car like this with such low miles, and I can see why people are really starting to scoop these up now. I guess I was just extremely curious as to how much would this car go for, because generally speaking, an 89 IROC-Z, they're really not worth that much. They weren't that rare, and of course we're going to discuss the numbers here in a little bit. But a car that has 116 original documented miles is obviously extremely special. So how about after you see the results of the auction, leave a comment. Do you think the car was worth that much? Do you think it's worth more or less? I'd be curious to see what you guys think. Anyway, let's get to some details about the 1989 Chevrolet Camaro. In 1989, the Chevrolet Camaro had a starting price of $14,145. But as you can see with the window sticker on this car, it was priced at $19,215, which accounting for inflation today would be just over $39,000. So that was a pretty expensive car for the day. As far as miles per gallon go, it was rated 17 in the city, 25 on the highway, and 20 combined. So really not too bad. You may have seen on the window sticker that this car was optioned with the 350 engine, which was rated 240 horsepower at 4,400 RPM and 345 pound-feet of torque at 3,200 RPM, so not that shabby. It had a 9.3 to 1 compression ratio and was rated 0 to 60 in 6.7 seconds and ran the quarter mile in about 15 seconds. Speaking of the engine, let's see how it runs. Of course, you could get a manual transmission in this car, but this one was optioned with the automatic, that being the THM 400 R4, which a couple years later would be renamed the 4L60. Now here is the interesting part with this car, and that being the rear end. In this configuration, the 350 with the automatic transmission, it came with, and get this, a 277 gear in the rear. You could get a performance optioned rear end with a 327 gear, which is just crazy when a performance option is a 327 and the standard is 277 gears. Definitely the 1980s. Now speaking of that performance rear, there was actually something very interesting I dug up about the 1989 IROC-Z Camaro, and that being that a 1LE actually existed then, and I didn't realize that. Now, it wasn't a package where you just went to the dealership and said, yeah, I want the IROC-Z with the 1LE package. It was essentially just a nomenclature for a collection of options, so let me explain that a little bit more. In 1989, if you went to the Chevrolet dealership and you ordered a Camaro with the IROC-Z package, and then you also got the G92 Performance axle, the one we just discussed, you know, with the 327 gear, and you ordered that without air conditioning, that collection would trigger the 1LE. Now, with the 1LE, you got a lot of extras. So let's take a look at that list. You get larger 11.65 inch rotors with 2-piston aluminum calipers. You got an aluminum drive shaft. You got a baffled fuel tank. You got specific shock absorbers. You got stiffer bushings, and you even got a fog lamp delete. Now, I didn't even know that existed, so I thought that was interesting. But here's the more interesting part, is the actual production numbers for the 1LE Camaros in 1989. There were only 111 of those, so they are extremely rare, and this car is not a 1LE, but I just thought that little bit of history was pretty cool. Now, total production for the IROC-Z in 1989 was actually just over 20,000, so it's not a terribly rare car, but a car with only 116 miles, well, that's pretty rare, I would have to think. Now, another little nugget of information that I found about the 1989 Camaro was that 43 were actually radio delete cars. I didn't even know they were doing that still in 1989. Anyway, you guys, enough talk about the car and the history and everything. How about we take a look at that auction? What do you guys think this car is gonna go for? Leave a comment right now, and I'm gonna jump to the results in 3, 2, 1. And no, your eyes are not deceiving you. This car went for $55,550. So what do you think about that? Do you think the car is worth more and this person got a pretty good deal? Do you think it's worth less? You know, leave a comment. I'm curious to see what you guys think. Now, again, I'll be the first to admit that I'm not a huge fan of the 3rd generation Camaro, but I can definitely appreciate a car that's all original and has only 116 miles on it. I even talked to somebody that knew the original owner, and obviously the original owner of these cars was very particular about their care. He would keep them all in a heated facility, and I guess he would just go out there every day and clean a few of them, which it definitely shows how much he cared about all of these cars. Sometimes you'll see these auctions with cars that have sat for quite a while and people put them in storage, but they just throw them in storage and they just leave it, and then they get kind of musty and they don't account for humidity, and the cars, yeah, they're low miles, but they're just not that clean. This is not the case, you guys. The camera, I know, is not doing it any justice. The paint is absolutely flawless, and the interior still retains almost all of the protective plastic, and it even has a lot of the new car smell, which is crazy. This thing was bought 30 years ago, so it's definitely a special car. There are 2 more interesting facts about this car that I just have to share. According to the documentation from the original owner, this car has only been washed 1 time, and it's actually never been registered. So that is just crazy, guys, absolutely crazy. Anyway, if you found this video at least a little bit entertaining, please make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. If you would like to see more cars from this auction, of course, leave a comment. I definitely have footage for most of them. That includes some really crazy things like a 1st generation Bronco with only a couple thousand original miles, a 1953 Chevrolet 210 with only 20,000 original miles. So if you guys want to see that, then of course just let me know. I'll post them at some point. Anyway, I appreciate you guys for joining me, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. You guys are awesome.
Tell you about now, baby. You know, she comes around